Hello, my name is David Becker, and I'm the course lead for English 101 with the American Public University System. This is a short presentation titled Beginner Turnitin, 6 Quick Papers. Before we look at some sample papers, here are some fast points about Turnitin.com. All papers in English 101 are automatically submitted to Turnitin. You won't have to do anything different. All you have to get are the students to submit their papers like normal within the Dropbox. Before, you used to have to create your own Turnitin.com account, and you have to manage that and go in and make sure the students had done what they needed to do, and that created a lot of extra work. You don't have to do that anymore. One thing you will have to do is you need to study the results of each report. You should take a few quick moments and double check that everything's there. Sometimes students will submit the wrong file. Sometimes the report simply won't work. There'll be a problem with it. So you do have to take a look at each and every file that you will get a report for. Work has to be submitted to the Dropbox for Turnitin in Microsoft Word format. If a student submits it in any other form, it will not work, and you'll have to ask them to do that again. Some other common file types that you might see in the classroom: a .odt file, that's OpenOffice. That's a free program. It's popular among some students if they can't quite afford Microsoft Word. Some older types of files are .wps, that's Microsoft Works. .wpd, that's WordPerfect. Those are older PC programs. There's another one called .abi, that's AbiWord. That's getting more rare. That's for both PC and for Mac platforms. But any of those four are incorrect, and students would need to submit that again. Even though the papers are automatically submitted to Turnitin.com, I recommend you get your own Turnitin.com login if you don't have one already. There are other times you might want to submit some information to Turnitin to check on it. This includes checking forum posts or occasionally checking emails. If you don't have your own Turnitin.com, email me and I can get you set up, get you the information to make sure you have one. Again, I think it's a crucial thing to have. I think it does help with running a classroom. Once again, as I said before, students no longer need you to set up a classroom in order to get results for their papers. It's all done automatically, and English 101 does it for you. Finally, you may need to Google some files if they look suspicious. I can tell you that Turnitin.com is not perfect, and you will need to, from time to time, do other things to see if you can find some results. Recently, I used Google because this file in question looked a little suspicious, and I didn't get a hit at Turnitin.com. When I used Google, the entire file came up as something from a LinkedIn page from someone. I used the website address, and then I took a screenshot of what I saw at that address, and I submitted that for a plagiarism charge, and it was upheld. So you do not need to have just Turnitin.com in order to have a plagiarism charge upheld. In this case, I simply used a screenshot and a website. With all of those points in mind, let's begin. Let's take a look at some of our 6 papers here to see some common things that you might run into with Turnitin.com. This is from an English 101 class that I have right now, and these are results from the first essay of the term. This would be essay number 1 that's due in week 2, and this is pretty typical. You can see on the right hand side some percentages here, but one of these should stand out. One of these items should look a little bit unusual, and it's this one right here. You see it's highlighted in red, and it may be a little hard to see. I'll zoom in on it in just a second. This is a 98% match. This is something that means that 98% of the students' work comes up as similar to something else on the internet. Before I click on the next item, I do want to mention you'll see some blue boxes around some of these pictures. These are blue boxes that have been placed over student names to protect their privacy. Understand that sharing names like that would be a FERPA issue. So for privacy's sake, all of the students' names are covered with blue boxes. Once again, in case you could not see it before, this handy red arrow is pointing right at the red item here. That's a 98% match with Turnitin.com. So let's take a look at that file. When I click on that 98%, that's what you do. You'll click right on that percentage. This is what I see here. Once again, all student names are covered. But as you can see on the left-hand side, this right here is going to be what the student submitted. This is their work. On the right-hand side, this is what Turnitin.com says that file is similar to. You'll notice, as an example of a problem, that this file right here is from an English 101 class. As I said, this previous file that it's connected to with Turnitin.com is from College 100. So what we have here is a file from a different class, and up here that's covered is a different student's name. So this is unquestionably plagiarism, and this is something that I would file a plagiarism charge on using the plagiarism link in our classroom. This is the same class, but now this is the second essay. This is essay number 2, Writing for Information. And you'll notice that we have a number of students that have again submitted a file. And once again, in the same location, I see another file that's been submitted with a 98% match. So let's take a look at that file. Just like the last time, this is another example of a file that was copied and pasted from some source on the internet. It's not exactly clear where it came from. Unlike the last time, I don't get a class to come up for this one, but you'll notice that it was submitted in May to the American Public University System. That's us. So about 5 or 6 months ago or so, this file was submitted to another class. So once again, this is a slam dunk plagiarism charge. There's no question that this is something that the student copied and pasted, and the student is not submitting their own work. And once again, this is the same student as the last time. That brings up a good point. If you have a student that has plagiarized once before, or it appears that they've plagiarized, it is something where you want to keep your eye on that student for future assignments. Even if you choose to use it as a teachable moment and try to help a student out, it is still worth keeping an eye on these things to help make sure that that student is doing what they need to do for their future assignments. The third paper we'll look at comes from that same pile of submissions for essay number 2. And so again, we've got a 98% match a little farther down, but at the top of the file here, at the top of the submissions, I see a 33% match. You'll see the arrows pointing to this at the top of the screen. So let's take a look at this 33% match and let's see what we get. You'll see this in a different screen in a moment, but like a lot of instructors are reporting, what we have here is an example where students submitted their writer's checklist as a part of their essay. It's because the students are asked to do this. You see a writer's checklist that's been submitted as part of the essay, and most of what came up as a match, most of this 33% is in fact the writer's checklist. This is another view of the same paper, and you'll notice that there's a lot of things that are highlighted in color. You can see these at the top of the screen. Once again, these are the writer's checklist. Now, this is not an appropriate paper to submit for a plagiarism charge. The student has followed the directions, and this is something where they've just answered the questions that the assignment asks them. Please note that for November 2014 starts, this has been changed. So in the English 101 classes that will begin in November of 2014, the instructions have been rewritten so that students should answer these questions, the writer's checklist questions, in the text box. They should not submit them. This should help some of the confusion that instructors are seeing where there's a high match, 33% from Turnitin.com. But again, this student has not plagiarized, and I would recommend against a plagiarism charge. Now, down below in the middle here, you can see some places where there are links, but in just about every case, you'll notice that there is an in-text reference. So you might want to speak to this student about their in-text references. Perhaps you feel that there's too much word for word, but I think there's no question this paper should not be submitted for a plagiarism charge. This is our fourth paper to take a look at. This is, again, still essay number 2, the same collection of submissions. In this particular essay we'll look at, the red arrows pointing to, is a 43% match. So obviously that's higher than 33%. So let's take a look at this essay. Let's see what we get from this one. Once again, just like the last essay, we see quite a bit of the hit here, quite a bit of the similarity report is from the writer's checklist. You'll see this information up above. And so 1 through 9 are here. And okay, well that's not something that would be a plagiarism problem. However, you'll notice that I've put a red box around some of the information in the center of the paper. This is an example of something that I would counsel a student on. I think this would be a teachable moment. You take a look at this and you'd comment to the student that there's too much here that's word for word. You'll notice in both green and light blue there's information here that should be revised so there's less writing from a source and more from a student. However, once again, I do not think that this should be a plagiarism charge. I think that this would be something that would be a teachable moment. You can speak to the individual and make some suggestions about how to cite their information properly or how to paraphrase, how to put things in their own words. Essay number 5 to look at is from a different class that I have right now, but it's the same assignment. This is still essay number 2, and you'll notice we have an orange color on this particular file. This one is a 55% match, and if you're able to see this on your screen, you may notice that I have assigned this essay a grade of 0. By now, I'm sure you're seeing the similarities again. You're seeing the same sort of pattern. Once again, it looks like 12% of this essay is coming from the writer's checklist. There is a problem here. It's worth pointing out that this student answered all of the questions in the writer's checklist with one word. That word is yes. And if you take a look at the rubric, that's simply not enough. Students have to go into more detail, and they have to say more for the writer's checklist answers. However, if you take a look at where the arrow is pointing, this is an opportunity for you to click on this little down arrow here. Right now it says Show Highest Matches Together. When we look at a different view of this essay, you'll notice that while those writer's checklist questions are still at the top, there is a significant amount of information that is copied and pasted in the center of the paper. There may be in-text references for quite a bit. I see one here. I see one here. But there's simply far too much here that is written word for word or taken word for word from a source. This student has to revise this paper. I can't tell you to file a plagiarism charge or not. In this case, I would make some suggestions and talk to the student and see what happened. Why did they do this? What was going through their mind when they submitted this, to see what type of things they have to say. Certainly, this paper can't stand as it is. I have graded this essay as a 0 and given this student an opportunity to revise and resubmit. The 6th and last essay type that we'll discuss here is actually one that does not have any plagiarism problems. This particular essay, you can notice the cursor on it right here, and it says a 0% match, and that sounds great. We are speaking about plagiarism here, and so a 0% match says that there's nothing copied and pasted from the internet. The problem is, however, that if a student's doing some research, there should be some percentage there, even if it's as little as 2 or 3%. I can tell you, because I've viewed this file, that this particular submission is basically a personal response. There's no information in it, there's no in-text references, and there's no end references. So even though this is supposed to be an informational paper, there isn't any information, and so this is another paper that will have to be revised. So don't misunderstand, a 0% in a paper that requires sources and research is not necessarily a good thing. I'm sure you'll understand that this brief presentation was not meant to cover everything. However, we did take a look at 6 papers to give you an idea of some of the things you might see in English 101, and you'll see these in other AP US classes as well. Once again, my name is David Becker, and my contact information is on the screen here, david.becker@mycampus.apis.edu. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I'll be happy to help. If I don't know the answer, I will work to find it from speaking to other people at the library or our FD or PD to get some information. Please don't hesitate to join us in the CLE forums as well. There's quite a bit of robust conversation there, and I can tell you that for English 101, at last check, we're up to about 250 posts where there are instructors discussing some of the things in class, and it would be great for you to join us there. I hope you found this informational. Take care, and I hope to talk to you soon.